Us, everyone, and welcome to our seventh Greek Ancestry webinar. As you may know, this is the last webinar we are doing. However, our educational program will continue with articles and new research tools, and we are also preparing a youth program with a friend in Boston. So, yeah, just stay tuned. Um, so far, as you remember, we have talked about all the different types of Greek genealogy records. We've talked about voter lists and mail registers, municipal registers, census records, school records, contracts, and civil records, and church records. Um, Today we are going to do something different. So I decided instead of presenting you another type of Greek genealogy record, I think it's better to present you a case study and see how all these different kinds of records correlate with each other, how they can be used complementarily, and what great stories can be revealed. So we're going to discuss about a real case study I recently worked on, and we should all thank Nick Kumulis because it's his family we'll be talking about. So Nick and I met when Nick booked a free consultation through my website. So we discussed about his family history and research possibilities. What Nick knew at first was that his great grandparents, Venizelos Karantzalis from Levetsova, Kroches, and Anika Kargakou from Amikles, both villages close to Sparta, were married in 1906. So this is what we had at first and where we started. Since we knew about a marriage, we decided to start looking for the marriage record of 1906. As we have already said, there are two places where you can find a marriage record. First, at the municipal registry office, Lixiarchio in Greek, or at the local metropolis, the church. If you remember, we had said that the civil records, the records from the registry offices, most of them start from 1925. So for a 1906 marriage, we should look first at the metropolis. Fortunately, the marriage records of the metropolis of Sparta are now available on MyHeritage. It's a project Carol Kostakos and I worked on in the past few years. So Nick went on MyHeritage and he managed to find the 1906 marriage record and also the marriage records of Venizelos' and Anika's parents. In fact, he found out that in 1870, Ioannis Karantzalis from Levetsova married Vasiliki Kokoni, daughter of Anagnostis from Parori, a small village close to Sparta. And today we'll focus on this Kokonis family from Parori. So Nick tried to find the marriage record for Vasiliki's parents. And since Vasiliki was married in 1870, we assumed that she would be about 25 years old then, so her parents married about 25 years ago, between 1845 and 1850. But Nick was not able to find Vasiliki's parents' marriage record, Anagnostis and his wife. And this makes sense. You should know that the marriage records of the metropolis of Sparta now in MyHeritage Although the earliest registration is of 1836, most marriage records are for after 1852. So if that couple married between 1845 and 1850, it makes sense why the record could not be found. And then, we thought, all right, what are we doing now? We thought to take a look at the voter list for Parori of 1872. This voter list is on MyHeritage. So Nick went on MyHeritage, he did his searches, but Anagnostis Kokonis was not there. We could not find the name, and well, of course, since his daughter was married in 1870, that means he obviously was of age. He was eligible to vote, so apparently he was dead. He had passed by 1872. So we were wondering, did we hit a brick wall? We didn't. On Greek ancestry, we have a very rare collection, Parish Census records of 1856 for Parori, for Socha, for Katochora of Mistras, and then some records for Vasaras. Anyway, so let me tell you really quick what these records are. So back in the 19th century, the parishioners, the residents of a village and around a church, they would vote and elect their priest. So the metropolis wanted to have some information on those parishioners, how many they are. And in 1856, apparently, the metropolis of Sparta ran this census for those villages I mentioned. And we did find a record for Anagnostis Kokonis. According to that record, Anagnostis Kokonis was a resident of Parori in 1856. His wife's name was Eleni, and he had 3 daughters. And since Anagnostis and Eleni had 3 daughters by 1856, that means that they were married for at least 5-6 years, which explains why their marriage record could not be found through the metropolis marriages on MyHeritage. They were married before 1852 for sure. So, building on this information from the parish census, we continued with another type of record, the voter list of 1844. This voter list comes from the Lavas collection of the General State Archives, and it's indexed and searchable on Greek ancestry. So, we started browsing the records, but there were no voters from Parori. Parori was not in the records at all, and that was weird, because all the villages of the same municipality, they were there. Only Parori was missing. So what we realized was that Parori was a very small village at the time, so perhaps the voters, its residents, they were recorded under a different village. The nearest village to Parori is Mistras, and indeed we found a voter list record for Anagnostis Kokonis in Mistras. Now, according to the voter list, Anagnostis Kokonis was 45 years old in 1844, so born in around 1799, and he was a landowner. And interestingly, according to the record, Anagnostis was not a native of Parori or Mistras. Instead, he had arrived to the area in 1815. But the record didn't say where he came from, only when he arrived in 1815. Also, his father's name, it was not there. And, that caused some disappointment, and we were thinking, okay, we don't have a father's name, and we don't know the original place, where they came from, so that's it. But, do you remember last week we were discussing notarial records, contracts. And I had showed you this great book published by the archives in Sparta. That book includes contracts between 1833 and 1835. And in fact, it's not just a list of contracts, but the contracts are transcribed. So you have the entire text in that book. And I looked through the index and found 10 mentions of an anagnostis kokonis. So anagnostis kokonis was mentioned in 10 different contracts. Let me tell you what one of them said. So one of them was from 1834, and it said that anagnostis kokonis, resident of Parori, was leased the right to collect revenues from the villages of Mari and Gyotsali. These villages are in South Arcadia, close to Hieraki and Kremasti. But it says, as he could not go there to collect the revenues, he subleased the right to Anagnostis Christou and some other guys for 1,000 drachmas. This story is great, right? And it reveals a lot for this person. Obviously, he was wealthy, in order to be able to rent this right of collecting tax revenues, and also to be able to sublease them and still have profit. But most importantly, this contract included another piece of information, a really interesting one. According to the contract, Anagnostis Kokonis was a resident of Parori, but he had come from the village of Anavriti. Now, Anavriti is a village up on the Taigetos mountain, and from Anavriti you can literally see the entire valley of Sparta. It's a very, very beautiful village. So, obviously, according to the contract, Anagnostis Kokonis moved from Anavriti to Parori in 1815, according to the voter list of 1844. So see how these two records can be combined, the information. So he moved in 1815, 6 years before the Greek Revolution broke out. We tried to find records for Anavriti, and there's a book about the history of Anavriti written by Mr. Bayokos. He has passed now, but I met him with Carol some years ago at his house. Anyway, so browsing the book, we didn't find anything about the Kokonis family. And although that book includes a list of all the families of Anavriti, Kokonis was not there. And this is interesting because the same thing happens with Carol's family, Carol Kostakos Petrani. Her family came from Anavriti to Agios Ioannis, another village close to Mistras and Parori, but they are not in the book. So obviously there was some movement from Anavriti to the valley at the beginning of the 19th century. And I cannot think of any other reason except for economic reasons. So obviously, all those people up on the mountain, they saw the valley and thought that, you know what, we should go down there and buy some land and cultivate it. So see how this little story is revealed. And the reason I wanted to share all this with you is that this whole story was revealed thanks to this combination of records, right? We used voter lists and church records and contracts and the parish census. And what's even more interesting is that today all this research can be done from your living rooms and our living rooms. No on-site research was needed. The voter list, the first one of 1872, and the marriage records were on our MyHeritage. The voter list of 1844 and the parish census, they are on my website on Greek Ancestry. And the contracts came from this book that the Archives of Sparta published recently. So we literally did this whole research from our sofas. So this is what I wanted to share today. Now we will start answering questions. Carol Kostakis is our moderator. She will start sending in questions you may have. Let me tell you real quick. So for the parish census, I said we have for Parori, Soja, and Catohora of Mestras, and also for Vasaras, and there will be more. In fact, I'm going to Sparta in a couple of weeks to continue digitizations. The Lavas collection, the old voter list of 1844, 1850s, these are more and more of these will be available on Greek Ancestry. Now we have, I think, all the lists for Laconia. We have many for Messinia. We are adding many for Arcadia. So for more and more regions of the country, there will be these old handwritten voter lists indexed and searchable on Greek Ancestry. Now, I see here someone asking, can you search my heritage for marriage records with just a last name? Yeah. There are many fields which are searchable on my heritage. You can search by last name, by first name. I think you can search by place, which is very, very helpful sometimes. I see Stili Klikizos says Anavriti is my husband's ancestral home. That's great. There are many records for Anavriti and this great book. So you will find a lot. No questions? So let me tell you a little more about the marriage records now in my heritage. What we did was we indexed the books. We linked the licenses, the documents to the digital indexes. And also, what we did, I did that, and I'm proud of it because it was hard. We created an index for all those documents before 1852 which were not indexed. There was no book for them. So we created a book based on all the dispersed documents. So Stephanie asks, my question concerns the jobs spreadsheet you and Georgia recently posted. How are they filed? Are there names, persons, or town of who held these jobs? I'm particularly interested in doctor or surgeon, great-grandfather from Thessaloniki. You should ask Georgia. I'm not sure. For Thessaloniki, Georgia is not going to have this information. So if you want, just send me a message and I can let you know. It will be easy because I have the whole database on Greek Ancestry, but professions on Greek Ancestry are not searchable. So just send me a message to remind me. Do you have records from the Mani area? Yes, we do have. Take a look under our Laconian database, and if you don't find what you're looking for, just send us an email and we'll be happy to guide you through. In fact, these records from Mani we added them in April, I think, and they also include the old voter lists of the 1840s, 1850s. Greek Revolutionary records, very interesting question. There are. The problem is that in their majority, they are not digitized and indexed. So they're really, really hard to search through. Well, this would be a perfect project to do, to take up at some point. My husband's papu was a school teacher. Stevie, from Anavriti, I guess. That's really, really interesting. I'm wondering what school records they have for Anavriti in Sparta. You could easily find his signature, I guess. George Leon asks whether MyHeritage has any other records for Zakynthos except for the voter records. No, they don't. Lauren asks, for the marriage records you mentioned that there are some interesting facts, sometimes dowry, etc. Could that be on the first page of the documents other than the index, or typically do you need to see more pages for that? Yeah, it would not be on the first page normally. Most of these cool documents are attached to later marriages, so I would say roughly after 1900. But yeah, I don't think it would be the first page. Have you managed to find what you were looking for on MyHeritage? Betty asks, where can I search for records for Kakuri, Artemisia, and Arcadia? Need to piece together one family. Take a look on our website. I think you've asked me again, but yeah, take a look there. Also take a look on MyHeritage because they have some voter lists too. Sooner or later, well, actually by July 1st, we will have all the old voter list records for Arcadia, 1840s and 1850s. So keep that in mind and search on July 1st. Peter asked about revolutionary records. I answered. I said yes. There are, but they are largely not digitized and indexed. Where should I start looking for my family in Kalamata? Take a look under our Messenia database on Greek Ancestry under search. If you don't find anything, you can also subscribe on MyHeritage and see what they have. And I think for Kalamata we also have the old voter lists. Where can I buy this book? Georgina asks. Georgina, which book are you referring to? The one for Anavriti or the one for the contracts? The one for the contracts, it's free. You don't need to buy it because it was published by the archives in Sparta. Yeah, but you will need to go to Sparta to get it, or have someone mail it to you. Stavio Ajuria, please send me a message about this one because I have worked on a case and it's perhaps we will find some connection. I'm not sure what we have on Greek Ancestry for Ajuria or and Stadio, I'm not sure, but we will have the old voter lists of the 1840s, 1850s by July 1st for all Arcadia, all of it. At the moment, we only have for Kinuria, the south of Arcadia, but on July 1st we'll have everything. Christina asks if Greek Ancestry is a separate website or part of MyHeritage. Oh, your first time attending the webinar. That's great. Welcome. Greek Ancestry is independent of MyHeritage. We do cooperate with MyHeritage and others. But we are independent, we are self-funded, we are based here in Patras, in Greece. So yeah, and the difference is that Greek Ancestry is solely dedicated to Greek genealogy. Except for records, we also have this educational program, and we don't have a subscription. So you will only be charged for the record you want to order, and not for a subscription. Um, Carol says that in Sparta, the archives have school records for Anavriti. She has seen them. That's great. So everyone who's from Anavriti, keep that in mind. I'm going to Sparta in a couple of weeks. Not this Monday, next one. So, do you have records from Chania? Litsa asks. We do have all the male registers of Chania, the entire region, on Greek Ancestry under search Chania. You can search by surname and village. So, and let me know if you need any help. Just let me know. Peggy asks, if my family is from Messenia or possibly Crete, can I use just your site and not use my heritage? That's an interesting question. Peggy, it really depends at what stage of your research you are. We've talked about this. Let me tell you this. The old voter lists of 1840s, 1850s, these are on Greek Ancestry only. If you're interested in Messenia or possibly Crete, my heritage can only help you with the later voter lists of the 1860s, 70s. So, yeah. Church records from Yithio, yes. It's, yeah, I want to do that. This summer, I'm going to Sparta, at least, and perhaps to other places too. I've thought about Yithio, and it's in the priority list. Oh, this is a very interesting question by Ioannis Housianakos. If a village native moves from their place to a different one, are their vital records moved with them? No, they are not, and this is what complicates research. The vital records stay at the municipality. They are municipal, so they will not move with the individual. Take a look at our webinar on municipal registers, because we discussed what happened when someone moved from one village to another when it came to municipal registers. Yeah, the archives of Sparta don't have school records available online. They have not digitized them, but they're very helpful. So if you send them an email, they will answer to you directly. Yeah, quick. Thessalia, we don't have records for Thessalia at the moment. Phthiotida and Phokida, we do have records from those two areas. Take a look under the corresponding databases on Greek Ancestry. If you don't find something, let me know and I will tell you if you will find something more on my heritage. Contract books available for all towns in Greece. Yeah, so you watched our last webinar, Peggy. I think you're interested in Koroni, or I think you need to ask in Kalamata. In fact, I'm going to send a message to them for you and see what they have. All right. Alexandra Kiritsi, you will see her more and more from now on. She works with me for the youth program we are starting. So she's asking, what are these parish census records? So as I said, they were records held by the church, the metropolis. to have some information for the parishioners who then voted and elected their priests. They include first name, surname, wife's name, and then the number of children. And they also tell you if the child is a boy or a girl. And in some cases, they also tell you if this person is a native of the village or if he temporarily lives there, something like that. Um, are any records from Samos in English or can search in English? No. Unfortunately, no records for Samos are searchable and indexed at the moment. However, just give us a couple of months and you will see some stuff. Do you know if during the revolution some names were changed to reflect a nom du guerre? I've heard this is the case in my family. Can this be confirmed? It's interesting. Many of the old records include two names. So it could be like Stili, Klikizos, or Anagnostopoulou, for example. And that means two names were still in use, and that sometimes helps. It really depends. I think this would require a very specific research. Christina asks about Samos. We will have records from Samos. Will the release on July 1st include records from Dimitsana and Megalopoli? Yeah, I think it's going to include all of Arcadia. I'm not sure if these specific municipalities will be covered, but I think they will. Very interesting question by Lauren about Greek ancestry, Greek ancestors who migrated to Russia. Send me a message about that. It's complicated. There are the archives of the Greek Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which are interesting. It also depends where they lived in Greece. For example, the voter list of the 1880s, I think, and 1890s. They also include the current residence of the eligible voter. So, for example, some records say, yeah, you are registered in this village, Platanos, or whatever, but you live in Romania. So that would be interesting. Christy asks about Crete, marriage, and death records from Crete. No, we don't have such records from Crete yet. Anthony asks about Anthony Spantonidis. Yeah, thank you for your order yesterday. The records have been sent. Anthony, perhaps, I'm not sure about the specific village. Could be a different name, perhaps. And of course, municipalities change borders all the time. So just send me a message about that, and I'll let you know. Carol found a school record for Castorio in Laconia. That's great. How do I get to the GAC for Sparta? They have a website. Perhaps, yeah, Carol has already sent the email address. Where in Greece do you live? I'm in Patras. Tell us about your youth program. Sounds interesting. Well, the concept, Alexandra liked it. The idea is to find a way to connect young third, fourth generation Greek Americans with their Greek heritage. It's not going to be only about family history. We will try to keep it balanced. we have decided a title. I'm not going to reveal it. Yeah, just stay tuned. Adoption records from the period of the Revolution. I doubt that, unfortunately. Illegitimate Children by Laurie Jones. The question. Yeah, it depends though. For example, there are many birth records which say illegitimate. There are voter lists which say illegitimate under the father or unknown. It really depends. Ioanni says the records in Yethio Town Hall are in a mess. Books are missing. Did you know about this? It's not only Yethio, unfortunately. It's all over. Christy asked about the Gacken Creed. There is an email. Christy, just send me an email, send me a message, and I will give you their email. It should preferably it should be in Greek. I can help you with that. Yeah, just send me a message, and I can also point you to the right collections. All right. If this is it, I would like to thank you all, because your attendance and participation in all these webinars, 7 webinars we've done, has been amazing. Don't worry, we will continue. Perhaps not with webinars at the moment, but as I said, articles and tools and some interesting information, some statistical information we are going to publish based on our collections. In the summer, I will be working on many new records. There will be records which have never been used in Greek genealogy before, so I guess that would require a new webinar. I'm talking about newspapers and city directories, many things. We are expanding in church with church records, and currently we have 300,000 records on our website, and I think that by the end of the year we're going to have perhaps 1 million. We'll see. Paula asks about women's records. Yeah, send me a message. We have covered this partly in different webinars. We talked about church records, civil records, municipal registers, contracts. All these include some sort of information for females. All right, guys. Again, thank you. Thank you very much. We'll stay in touch. Stay tuned. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Watch the webinars you have missed. And you know where to find us. Just send a message, an email, book a consultation through the website, and we will be in touch. Bye. Have a nice day.